Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Hope you guys been enjoying the content channel as of late. I am a little tired. I have like a pinch in my back. I think I just sat wrong. Uh, it's funny saying this because I'm literally like 24 years old. So like having back problems and stuff like that. It's just like it's hilarious. Um, but I was planning on seeing a movie tonight, but I went to the beach and this is prior to my back messing up. Um, uh, yeah, I know, yeah, but surf is surf. It actually wasn't too bad on my back, but you know, but it's also super late. I don't know why I was thinking I can watch something at this hour. It's like past 9. It's like no. So so I actually have time now to actually discuss this because this is actually pretty interesting. As apparently, if you see the title on the Hollywood Reporter, Warner Brothers is potentially for sale. Now, I read a little bit through this because I actually recorded this once, and my kitty was actually I don't know if he was having a nightmare or something. He was like meowing in his sleep. Um, he seems okay now. Um, but but essentially, Warner Brothers is basically opening themselves up for potentially being for sale because they are, quote, initiating a review of strategic alternatives to maximize shareholder value. And this is an indication of a for sale sign coming up. Multiple parties have expressed interest towards a potential sale, and this is where I left off. So strategic options include continuing with the previously announced split and spin, a la NBC Universal and Versant, a quote transaction for the entire company, or quote separate transactions for its WB and or slash Discovery Global businesses. There's even the potential for quote an alternative separation structure that would enable a merger of Warner Brothers and spinoff of Discovery Global to our shareholders. So basically, it's all on the table. So there's no there's no firm plan yet as to where things are going, but as per what is on the table, a for sale. Whoops, sorry. A for sale sign is one of those options. Um, Now, we've talked about this before in one instance, the specific one that they're looking at being splitting the company into two, which I thought personally I didn't agree with because, ultimately you're putting a lot of pressure on one part of that company to do well, whereas as a whole, the company benefits from certain things. Um, so I didn't really get that. But I thought ultimately the thing that's coming across to me anyway when I hear all this is that WB is in trouble because when you have to take that approach, that says a lot, or at least if that is an option on the table, especially when it is for the intent to maximize shareholder value, meaning that the value of the company has diminished over time, you know, and I'm curious, and it made me wonder, well, how specifically in film, because Warner Brothers is, makes up for a lot of stuff, not just movies, also television, video games, networks, sports networks, all that stuff. It's not just specifically a film, but this being a film channel, I wanted to examine the past 5 years from 2020 to now, because actually, ironically enough, Warner Brothers is actually done with this year now. So I figured it'd be a great time to examine those 5 years and see why it is that Warner Brothers is potentially looking to sell themselves out to someone else. So let's check that out right now and see how Warner Brothers did in the past 5 years. So I created a Google Doc, and what I did is that um, I examined all these box office takes And I most recently had been starting to uh, analyze box office more thoroughly. So, and I'll be talking about that in another video coming up. But eh, excuse me, everything in red is what did not perform well. Everything in green is what performed well. So we start off with 2020. Obviously, 2020 was not a good year for anybody. It was the start of the pandemic, and that was when studios were trying to figure out how to release films in general. So it was not a great year at all for the company. And then we went into 2021, and that's when they initiated their HBO Max strategy, their same day release strategy. And obviously, as we peek over at 2021, that did not go well at all. Only a few examples really proved to do well, those being Locked Down, which was like a small little piece starring Anne Hathaway and Chiwetel Ejiofor. It was like a pandemic-based film. Godzilla vs. Kong ended up doing okay. Mortal Kombat ended up doing okay. Conjuring did very well. But the rest, not so much. And they put a lot of hope onto onto streaming because we talked about many times on this channel they were kind of in a corner, but at the same time they also shot themselves in the foot because of just how things would play out within the theatrical window, theatrical releases in general, and you'll see as we get down the list how that kind of affected things for this company especially. But it wasn't completely without its benefits. Just as you can see, there were some bright spots, but more darker shades than brighter ones when you look at 2021. And then when we go down to 2022, it was a lighter year, so there wasn't a whole lot that came out from the company, um, and probably in some ways maybe intentional. I don't know, given how 2021 was. 2021 was just a rough year for that company. They also lost partnerships with Christopher Nolan, who and lost probably a lot of other goodwill within the company, and their partnerships with other people. Because duly remember, uh, Warner Brothers did not tell anybody about this plan. Nobody knew about it. The only people who knew about it were the people up top, and maybe a few other people here and there. But Legendary Pictures, they didn't know anything about it. Christopher Nolan didn't know anything about it. Nobody knew about it. So they really killed a lot of relationships within that as well, and just financially it didn't benefit at all. But looking at 2022, when they tried to return to theaters, some of them turned out okay. I think Kimmy came out on streaming, I believe, but I saw numbers for it. It was fine. It ended up doing okay. The Batman, obviously, being the biggest hitter of that year. Uh, so it was a fairly even, year for them. Four successes compared to four failures. The biggest failure, obviously, being Black Adam, I believe. Um, but when we look at 2023, though, that's when things start to kind of show quite a bit in terms of just the effects of that whole initiative. Because remember, Warner Brothers was the person, or was the studio that led the charge with this whole streaming release strategy, and giving that awareness to other to audiences about the benefits of streaming. So now, by the time we reach 2023, it's been about 2 years since that initiative started. So, and now you're trying to reverse it and try to go back into the theaters. It's going to be very, very difficult for people to be convinced by that. And very evidently so in 2023. Lots of failures there. The only 30 films, as far as I can tell, that did well for them were Evil Dead Rise, Barbie, obviously, and The Nun 2. That's it. The rest of these films did not do all that well. I know Wonka may look like it did well on paper, but you got to also remember, guys, uh, the amount of money that is made, that raw amount globally, all that does not go right back to the company. There's a 50-50 split typically within ticket sales between the theaters and the studios, and then you have to consider the domestic sales and the international sales and the kind of cuts they get there. And when you whittle it all down, it's very specific kinds of films that actually benefit the companies. Wonka, as far as I can tell, was not one of those. Maybe it was a small profit. I mean, it would depend purely how it did on streaming, but as far as I can tell, it wasn't huge, a huge benefit to the company. But yeah, 2023 was a rough year for Warner Brothers. A very, very rough year. And I mean, it was a rough year for a lot of companies, but as you can tell, in Warner Brothers' case, it was definitely a rough year. And then we go down to 2024, and you can see that trend continues because it was, again, not a great year for the company. Um, especially for their DC department, which also extends to this year, which we'll get into. Uh, but yeah, a few things here and there: Dune, Godzilla, Beetlejuice, M. Night Shyamalan's film Trap. There were some bright spots here and there, but ultimately, again, another down year, especially with big films like Joker Folie à Deux and Furiosa really taking a nosedive. Twisters also. Um, and coming off of a year like 2023, again, like some of these were pretty substantial failures. The Flash it's been, I think, from what I've read, is like considered one of the biggest flops in the superhero genre. One of the biggest flops potentially in a long time, just generally for a company. Um, so to get to a place like this, it's not great. It's not great. And of course, now coming into 2025, this is a complete list of WB's films from 2025, as far as I can tell. It was an overall better year. A better year, just generally for the past 5 years, it's been a better year for them. I think that the thing that to note, though, again, that I've kind of stated before in discussion of this of Warner Brothers, is that their heavy hitters did not do them well. Smaller things did them better. The only thing that's substantial that the company benefited from, like as a tentpole type movie, was a Minecraft movie. The rest purely was to do with horror. Sinners, Final Destination, Weapons, The Conjuring, all of which benefited from that alone. You know, good word of mouth also sufficed also as well. But films like Mickey 17, Superman, one battle after another, things that have cost them a pretty penny again. And this, when you take into account this year and what has made them money and what's not, and you could take into account all of the other years where they haven't made money, you can see how much they've been bleeding out for a while. And the reason for that, if you're asking me, is because of this year right here, is because of what they ended up doing with HBO Max, with the whole strategy that took place with that. I think they really shot themselves in the foot. And I think they knew that as well because they never returned to it. They never returned, to doing that for 2022 because they were losing so much money off of that strategy. And lots of companies decided to probably stop doing that as well. They might do it in smaller, fat ways, but they don't do it as substantial as they were likely doing in 2021 because they're probably losing money off of that, you know? So, as it stands, for the past 5 years, this company has been bleeding. This company has not been in a great state as far as the film properties are concerned. I've heard things about their video game departments, kind of being mismanaged. They've been losing money there as well. Television has been kind of questionable. I don't know how their television properties have been doing. I think again that falls onto streaming, and streaming is such a abstract thing. We never had exact figures regarding those things. But as far as film is concerned, though, they have been hurting for a while. They've had some bright spots here and there. This year being, I would say, their strongest year in the past 5 years, as far as I can tell. But still, compared to what has failed to what has succeeded, they are bleeding more than healing. And it's really ironic too because of something else that happened recently, which I'll look up here real quick. It's more funny in hindsight now when you look at this article. I don't know if any of you guys knew about this, but We talked about these people before, Michael DeLuca and Pamela. I don't know about Pamela, but I definitely remember talking about DeLuca. Their jobs were in jeopardy, supposedly, because of just, well, all the years that we had talked previously, all this bleeding that's been taking place within the company. They potentially were going to have their jobs. Just they were likely to be taken down a notch. I don't know, in a position or so, but their contracts have now been renewed, and they're specifically citing Sinners and Minecraft as the quote epic box office turnaround. They're citing two films to for that case. Um, Zaslav, who had been reportedly interviewing replacements for DeLuca and Abbey earlier this year, in the wake of flops like Joker Folie à Deux, The Alto Knights, Mickey 17, he actually praised the duo for surpassing $4 billion. Oh, good lord, $4 billion at the global box office with just 11 films. But that doesn't mean anything. What does that even mean? That means absolutely nothing. The pair's fortunes shifted with the releases of a Minecraft movie and Sinners, Weapons. This year, 9 of the studio's films debuted in first place at the box office, but again, what the hell does that even mean? Um, so that's the reason why they're rehired, is because of just a handful of things that did well, but that, again, being renewed for a unspecified amount of time. Well, if this is to be believed, this right here, that might be that might be short, depending on who takes on this company, or if they sell completely. Who knows? But it's just to illustrate that this company has been having problems for a while. And a lot of these problems are stemming from themselves. It's because of their inability to just recognize their own fault. Or perhaps they do, but there's nothing that they can really do about it because of just what streaming has done. They gave audiences like almost like a year or two to just be comfortable with that platform, to be comfortable with that form of release. And it's hard to convince people. That's why right now theatrically it's been kind of grim for a lot of films, because people are just more willing to just wait at home. So so it's kind of a rough spot for the company right now. And I'm only speaking on film because, again, I don't know all the ins and outs. Like, I know, like I said, I've been hearing things about their video game departments, and hearing that it's not been the best there. In television, I don't know exactly how things are, and I'm not sure if anyone really knows any, really, just because streaming is, again, such an abstract thing. But this is all to just illustrate that this company is hurting, they're bleeding, and I don't blame them for potentially going this route, especially if the thought process maximizing shareholder value. It just it just shows you that also people around them are probably also losing faith in the company, and investors maybe are also, getting shaky in terms of just where this company is going. And I don't blame them because of just what I've shown you. All this right here, especially from 2021, from that whole HBO Max strategy, and seeing the results of that, just seeing all this red that still overtakes a lot of the green. And yes, this year was a brighter year, but if this is still what you have to content with, because companies have to still content with these losses, out years after. So why then rehire the people that have potentially led you down this path, or are at the helm of this sort of thing? You know what I mean? It doesn't speak confidence to me. So, and I'm not saying that DeLuca or whoever they knew about the whole HBO Max strategy. I have no idea, but it's just to say that why would you put yourself in the position, be around people that have hurt you more than helped you, right? So it's just weird to me, if you ask me. So yeah, as far as I can tell anyway, the company is not in the best shape. And I mean, we've been hearing about, just as this article kind of points out, we've been, oh my God, fuck me. Um, we've been hearing about, them talking to other companies, or at least other companies, like at least the possibility of them selling themselves. This has been something we've talked about before with Paramount coming into the equation. Um, so it's definitely going to be interesting, but it doesn't surprise me just because of just what's been transpiring for the past 5 years. Really, who they have to blame is themselves, to be honest with you. Like, I mean, I wish I would, I mean, or not wish, but there would, like, you can't say it's the audience's fault because you've incentivized them, you've given them a better alternative, you've shown them that it's cheaper to just wait on streaming, and the value of the theatrical experience is not as important anymore. Even though you yourselves benefit a hell of a lot more from theaters than you do from streaming. I mean, obviously, look at 2021. I mean, this is proof of that. So, and this is just based off of my assessments. I mean, I'm not saying these are completely accurate, but as far as I can tell anyway, it was not particularly great for the companies. Um, Dune might have been another good one, but as far as I can tell it anyway, it wasn't. But but my point is that this company is hurting. So it's not a shock, given the state of things when you put it all into that context. So but but yeah, those are my thoughts on that. I'm going to head out now because I have a kitty who is needing of my attention. So, you guys, what are your thoughts on Warner Brothers potentially being up for sale? Let me know your guys' thoughts on that. Who you guys think might buy them out? Do you think Paramount might come in and buy them out? Or do you think that they'll do something completely different, like they'll split the company in two? Or I know they are doing that. They are confirmed to do that, which I still think is not the strongest way to go. Um, but let me know. Let me know all your thoughts on this in the comment section below. And that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.